Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of Denver's episode of Viper Falls, A Week in the Life. We are picking up directly where we left off last time. Cullen is just eating breakfast. Sophie and Denver are at work. And then Sophie has a chance card we can pause to read. I feel like she would go to the meeting, but that was the wrong choice, and she got demoted. So now she is home from work, fresh off the demotion. Sorry about that, Sophie. So she is down to a drill instructor. She lost that cushy little desk job that she had. And honestly, that is just the latest bad news in a string of bad news. As we kind of discussed last time, things have not been so peachy for Sophie lately. She was feeling very let down with her marriage, especially after her new husband, Denver, infamously left her to go on the honeymoon by herself while she was heavily pregnant, and then she also gave birth alone. I don't think Denver has even met his new daughter, Elani, quite yet. She doesn't really like her father-in-law. She is sick and tired of all the cats in the house. And last time, Cullen, her father-in-law, also bought a brand new business, but at least her friend has offered to take her on an outing downtown and also gave her a discount on some furniture for the household. Anyway, her father-in-law, Cullen, also used some of the inheritance money from his late wife, Nicole, to buy a business, even though everybody in the house kind of agreed that money would go to building a new nursery. That just was not the case. So Sophie's pretty upset. She got demoted. And this is the business that Cullen has bought. This is his first time going to check it out. He definitely bought it without even looking. Sorry, I was looking at his fears. He's afraid of having a baby. Not even a grandchild, a baby. He does not have a wife or girlfriend right now. No romantic interest. Anyway, so I went ahead and I just stocked his business with pretty much everything in his inventory, which includes a lot of crates of mediocre produce and all his pottery, of course, because his whole life, everybody was always like, wow, he's not selling his pottery, he's just doing it. But he had this vision in mind, even if he is gonna go and sit outside, that he could sell his pottery one day. He also marked everything very expensive. He bought a little radio, put some fun music on, and we're gonna let it happen. He does need to talk to the people in here a little bit and sell to them if he wants to make any profit. He can't just sit outside and wait for the sales to happen on their own. The fear of a baby is so interesting to me. Like, you have no chance of that happening. I guess the arrival of his grandchild made him realize how old he is, and he's like, oh, I really can't have a baby. One of our first customers is Anthony Desperate, who is, of course, Delilah's husband. I love when my Sims come and visit the businesses. And then after we did some selling, of course, we are going to have Cullen come over and operate the cash register. As I said at the end of our last episode, I think Cullen's going to quickly realize that running a business is a little harder than he had in mind. There's a little more work to it than simply just running it. You gotta kind of be there, be proactive, talk to the customers, operate the cash register, and of course, there are badges in the cash register and selling. There are levels to this, and he doesn't have any badges right now, so I think he's going to be quickly humbled at just how confusing this is. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted by Mr. Ramirez just dancing in the background. And then we just have a Cullen, like I said, working the register at his shop. He's only had 3 customers so far, but he just opened up. It looks like Anthony is eyeing some of that produce. He's probably thinking that produce does not look very appetizing. And Mr. Ramirez is just dancing away in the background. Oh, and it looks like we are about to make our first $1 if Cullen can figure out how to operate the register. He is pretty old. And for the first time since I think I've played him, he finally has a lot of family-oriented wants. The fear of having a baby again is so funny to me. He has no romantic interest, but I guess he's worried. And he is really taking his sweet time in operating this register. And congratulations, he has earned his first simoleon. Awesome. And it looks like Anthony did decide to go ahead and purchase some of those bland cucumbers, to each their own. Maybe he can use them for some snacks with Delilah. And you can just tell by looking at Cullen's face that he is starting to doubt opening this business. I think he did put about 30,000 simoleons into it so far, so he did spend quite a bit of money, but he is starting to think, wow, this is a lot of work. His needs are going down pretty fast. I know the basic selling and any of the cell interactions, it drains all their needs crazy fast. Cullen had 3 customers and he said, we're gonna go ahead and call it a day. He had enough business. He needs to turn off the radios, send all these customers home. And he wants to go ahead and I think head home and just take care of his needs. And he will never admit it to Sophie or Denver, but he is starting to question if putting all his money into this business was the best idea, especially with a newborn at home, all the cats. Sophie just got a demotion. There seems to be some tension in Sophie and Denver's marriage, which we will get into once we are back at the house. I'm just picturing Cullen driving home in absolute silence. And now we are back home. I really need to get a community lot mod so the times just match up when they go to the lot and come home. But now Cullen is home. He's definitely tired from his long day at work. Sophie is taking a bubble bath because she's been pretty depressed after her demotion, understandably so. So like I was saying before, Sophie's had a bit of a rough patch lately. And now Denver has a chance card. He lost some game enthusiasm, but at least he did not get a demotion like Sophie did. So Sophie got a demotion, and she's realizing that Denver is maybe not the best husband. He left her alone on the honeymoon. He wasn't there for the birth of their first child. And like I said, I don't think he's even really interacted at all with their new daughter, Elani, yet. So that's really rubbing Sophie the wrong way. And she already has enough issues with Cullen. She sees how Cullen is just a very absent father, even in his elder years. He's kind of more concerned about an accidental pregnancy versus, I don't know, seeing his own grandchild. Like, go hang out with your grandchild. All he really wants is everybody to keep getting married because it looks good on him when his children have these big wedding parties. Even though Cullen infamously missed Denver and Sophie's wedding because he was inside taking a bath. And then when he did show up, he just sat outside drinking all the champagne by himself. The newest kitten in the family is Apple. Thankfully, Apple is a kitten, so I don't think Banana can bully Apple too much. Oh, no, okay, that's Pear. Pear and Banana infamously are fighting all the time, something I did not realize until we most recently played. So there's a lot of cat fights going on in this house, a lot of tension and just unspoken grudges among all the adults. It's kind of a mess. So Cullen wasn't the best dad. He had 4 kids, but kind of didn't really raise them. He left the raising the children up to his late wife, Nicole, who passed pretty early from the stress of having to raise 4 children and manage the household, as well as having a career all on her own. Cullen got his pension check. Sophie and Cullen really do not have the best relationship whatsoever. I think they barely know each other, and honestly, I think Sophie prefers it that way. She thinks he is extremely self-absorbed, irresponsible, selfish, bad with money, etc., etc. She's really not impressed with just, I don't know, Cullen's lack of interest in his family's life, but he's very attracted to her, as we will see. He's always swooning over her, and she's just kind of like, please leave me alone, let me do my own thing, do not come near me. We have one sad little tomato plant left in Cullen's garden. Cullen was working on this garden, and he really didn't have a good green thumb. Okay, I don't know what was in the way here, but Sophie's coming out to get her moods up. Like I said, she has been super depressed in the past few days. She's realizing her husband's kind of a dud. Her father-in-law is sort of creepy and also annoying and spending all their money on frivolous things such as a business where he sells bland produce and poorly made pottery. I think Sophie just wants to go off with Elani and just be a single mom, but again, the demotions kind of put a wrench in those plans. She is very afraid of not having the financial stability that Denver and his family can offer. I think Denver's family is one of the most successful families in Viper Falls. And speaking of, Denver is now home from work. He is a state assembly person, as we've said before. And then I never noticed that he had a coupon for a free meal in here. I didn't even know that was a thing Sims could get. I think he got it because a waiter spilled some food on him a few episodes ago. And that is super on brand for Denver. And then I just quickly checked everyone's little aspiration benefits. So yeah, Denver is somehow a state assembly person. He is making laws in Viper Falls, and he has a lot of political influence. I think people really underestimate Denver because he comes off kind of goofy and unassuming, but underneath it all, he is a cutthroat businessman, or just cutthroat in all aspects of his life. Like, he always gets what he wants. He gets the girl, he gets the wedding. He's starting a family, he has a lot of money, and he's pretty high up in the political career, despite not having a lot of charisma skill. He just kind of, like I said, gets what he wants. He's a very hard worker. And Sophie is just begging Denver to talk to his father about the business and how it was a potentially poor investment to buy a business when Cullen's so old and doesn't really have any business experience. We saw firsthand he got pretty tired after only dealing with 3 customers and making 2 sales. That's why Cullen immediately went to the backyard to start working on the flowers. I think I'm really trying to boost his skill up so he can make a bunch of snapdragon flowers, and we can bring those to the business so he doesn't get as tired and he can work longer hours.
So Cullen's like going back to the drawing board. He's like, I'm really committed to this business and I'm going to show everybody I can make it work. I just need to tweak a few things. Denver really does not want to have a conversation with his dad about his spending habits. Denver's been kind of upset with his dad recently because, again, Cullen infamously missed their wedding. So Denver's kind of upset with his dad for the first time in his life, but also Denver has recently lost his mother, so he doesn't really want to alienate his dad too much because he does want to keep that good relationship with his dad, especially as Cullen nears the end of his own life. Denver's like, I really don't want to rock the boat. Let's just keep things smooth sailing. Denver keeps telling Sophie they'll just sell the business after Cullen passes. And Sophie's like, that man seems immortal. Awesome. And it looks like Cullen is now up to a silver badge in flower arranging. I believe he can make the Snapdragon bouquet when he has a gold badge. And then it's just a typical Friday night in the house. The house is a mess, as always. Nobody really seems interested in cleaning ever. The cats look pretty hungry. Don't know why Banana is in yellow. Like, I normally love the pets, but I really can't stand Banana. Like, I'm kind of frustrated that she keeps fighting all the other cats. Sophie is just taking a nap this evening. The cats are all feeding. Cullen is in bed because he is absolutely exhausted after his first taste of running a business. I think, like I said last time, he's really starting to learn that running a business is a lot more work than he thought. He really thought he was just going to buy this little store and start selling his pottery and people would just line up. But he only had 3 customers today and one of them just kind of danced the whole time and didn't buy anything. He is a little nervous that he invested so much money into this store, and I think he's a little worried that Sophie was right, that he should have maybe talked to Denver and Sophie before he spent all this money on a business. But what's done is done. I think if he were to sell the business now, he would still have lost a decent amount of money. So he's kind of between a rock and a hard place. And now that the butler is retiring for the evening, we're gonna go ahead and have a nanny come over because all the adults are pretty tired. And I just don't think Sophie trusts Denver or Cullen to take care of Elani while she sleeps. And I went ahead and got Cullen a deed for the corner shop. I think he already had one. I can't quite remember. Yeah, he already had one. Whatever. I think he's just exploring his options. He's really considering selling the store. But like I said, I think he's realized that would be a lost cause. He's just playing with Pear, who is secretly his favorite pet. I don't think anyone in the family really rocks with Banana, but Banana kind of bullies everybody and they're scared of her. The whole neighborhood, honestly, is kind of scared of Banana. As I've said before, I've never seen a cat so big. Denver is just calling some friends. He is a popularity sim after all. As we can see, Elani is totally in the orange. I think Sophie is asleep for the night because she's exhausted from working and then taking care of her baby. I don't know what Cullen is up to, but I'm glad that we got a nanny to come over to help with the baby because, like I said, Denver is just totally checked out. But I don't know where the nanny is either. As I'm sure y'all know, the nannies in the Sims games are infamously bad at their jobs. Sometimes you get a good one. Yeah, they've been a little better recently. I think I have some mods installed to make them a little better, but they still kind of slack off at times. Like, I think the baby crying just woke up Sophie, and she's kind of frustrated. And then Denver's friendship with Mary Lena is very suspicious to me. He has a little crush on her. I don't know if that's reciprocated, and I don't think they've done anything yet, but there's definitely some weird vibes going on there, especially now that he's married and has the baby.
And for some reason, Mary Lena got him a raise at work, which is really nice, but I'm definitely questioning her motives, why she pulled some strings for Denver, and kind of questioning their friendship in general. Like, why is he calling her late at night and talking on the phone? Definitely keeping an eye on those two. I just feel so bad for Sophie because she went to the honeymoon alone. She gave birth alone. She's pretty much been alone their whole marriage. Things with her in Denver have just been pretty tense. I think Denver's unhappy that Sophie keeps drawing attention to the fact that his dad really was not a great dad when Denver always insisted his dad was the best his whole life. Like, Denver isn't really handling the fact that his dad might not be all of that too well. He doesn't want to really change his perspective because it's the only perspective he's ever known. And I don't know what freaky book he is reading. At least he's thinking about his wife. Even though he has not held his newborn daughter once yet. I think Denver is a lot like his father, mostly in the sense that he enjoys the title of being a good dad and husband, but he really doesn't want to put in the work that is required to be a good husband and father. And then we have a rare, sweet moment between Banana and Pear. They're both sleeping on Cullen's bed together, not fighting, even though they absolutely hate each other. I feel really bad for Apple for getting involved in all this. I really hope they don't beat up Apple once Apple ages out. That would make me super sad. But I think Banana is just a mean, aggressive cat. So Denver is just reading a book in his dad's room. Oh, and Banana immediately got up because Banana is always the problem. Banana never wants to spend any time with the other cats. I've tried to make them friends so many times, and they just will not be friends. Sophie is downstairs eating a nice spaghetti dinner because the baby woke her up, and as usual, she is alone. It really makes me sad. You're really seeing the cycle repeat. Sophie's being treated very similarly to how Nicole was treated her entire life. Nicole, of course, is Denver's late mother, who, as we've discussed, passed relatively young because she was just so stressed out from raising 4 kids while her husband, Cullen, pursued his pottery dream. And now Denver's kind of doing the exact same thing. He's not really like fostering or nurturing a relationship with his wife. He's too busy focused on getting a career at work and chatting with a local girl that he has a crush on. As we've said multiple times, he has not even held his newborn daughter yet. And in Denver's eyes, he is just trying to stay afloat. He has been on a pretty downward spiral ever since his mom passed. Obviously, that really upset him. And then his spiral was only made worse at his wedding when his dad couldn't be bothered to show up for the ceremony. And Denver did realize at the wedding that his dad is not a good dad.
But as I've said, he has spent his whole life with the narrative that his dad's the best. He loved his dad. Denver has multiple siblings who don't really have a relationship with their dad because they all realized that their dad ain't all that. But Denver was always the oldest. He was the favorite child. So he was always like, no, my dad's great. I love my dad. And then when his dad couldn't even be bothered to show up for his wedding, he was like, oh my gosh. And his whole reality kind of shattered. Everything fell apart. He left Sophie alone on the honeymoon because he was so upset. And then when his dad bought the business, Sophie was like, you really need to talk to him about managing the money better because other families in Viper Falls have had money and then they've lost it. And Sophie was like, I want to make sure our children are set up for success. I want to make sure we have a nice safety net. And Denver just can't do it. Denver's like, I cannot wreck that relationship with my father. He is my father. He knows best, even though that's been proven time and time again that Cullen really does not know best, and Cullen doesn't really seem to have a good grasp on reality whatsoever, as made evident by Cullen's fear of having a baby at 80 years old. I think this is the most that Sophie and Denver have interacted in a while.
And they're both literally asleep. Anyway, the second Sophie woke up, she was like, oh no, I gotta go.
She was like, I need to get ready for the day. I need to get ready for work. As we've discussed, Sophie's a fortune sim, so her career is super important to her. And it's just been kind of hard lately.
Because Denver does not help out with the childcare whatsoever.
She's juggling being a mom and trying to excel in her career. Unfortunately, she did get a demotion yesterday, so she's been kind of depressed as well. And as we've seen many, many times in this house, no one in this family ever discusses their feelings, what's going on. So everybody's kind of going through it for different reasons. Cullen's upset that he spent all this money on a business, and it turns out running a business is really hard. Denver is upset that his dad actually isn't being there for him at all, that his dad missed his wedding day. Sophie's upset that the men in the house are not stepping up, that she is the only one taking care of baby Elani. And of course, the cats are always fighting. I feel like that needs to be addressed. Anyway, and now it's Saturday morning. Denver has a day off work, and Cullen is hard at work in the backyard trying to get that gold flower arranging badge so he can make the snapdragon bouquet.
For the first time in his life, Cullen has abandoned his pottery wheel in pursuit of a different dream.
I don't know if I've talked about it too much, but the snapdragon bouquet,
The flies
buzzing in the background, get me every time. It is like a whole swarm of them. Everyone in this house cannot clean, and this has been a reoccurring theme the entire legacy. I don't know what it is with this house. No one cleans. There's always trash on the floor. I feel crazy. Okay, anyway. Cullen is pretty obsessed with getting the gold flower arranging badge so he can start making the snapdragon bouquets. And the snapdragon bouquets will boost everyone's mood in the room. It's a really cool little hack. I try not to have too many families get it because then it's not fun, I feel like, when their needs are green all the time. The core gameplay for me is trying to juggle their needs with everything else going on, the storylines and their wants and fears. But it is fun to have a couple Sims get it and kind of spread it around the town. And interestingly enough, when Denver woke up, he rolled the one to become BFFs with Mary Lena. And he's also afraid of her dying, but he has no wants about his actual wife, Sophie. So I think that kind of shows where Denver's priorities are lying. He's like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have gotten married. He did kind of propose to Sophie out of grief. Literally seconds after his mother died in front of him, he proposed to Sophie. And she was also pregnant when he proposed. So I think Denver was just feeling some internal pressure to make things right, to marry his pregnant girlfriend. But then his dad not showing up to the wedding totally shifted his priorities, changed his views. Of course, Elani is here now. He's married now. He can't really do anything about that. He doesn't want to get divorced because Denver in his head, he's like, I'm a family man. I don't do that. My parents were married. He wants to have a long marriage, just like his parents did, even though maybe his parents aren't the best role models for that. And then he immediately invited Mary Lena to come over. And as of now, they are just friends. Oh, no, they're not. Okay, he just cheated on Sophie with Mary Lena. And they are just kissing. I was frantically going through... Oh, and they fell in love. I was going through his memories to see if they had kissed before, but I didn't see it. So, okay. So Denver has officially shifted into affair territory. He just kissed Mary Lena. He's flirting with her. Broad daylight in the front yard. You could hear his daughter crying upstairs. He just went from a villain to a supervillain with that move. Cullen ran over, and Cullen's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, for all his flaws, Cullen never cheated on Nicole. Cullen was just an absent father and husband. He was always at that pottery wheel. He didn't have time to cheat. But yeah, I think Cullen's like, you went too far. So now Cullen and Denver are officially at odds with each other. Denver was already kind of upset with his dad, but now his dad's also upset with him. And I guess the thing is, or the question is, if Cullen's going to tell Sophie what he just saw. Of course, now Cullen is distracted by Chloe, who has just walked by. I think Cullen's like, okay, maybe I can get like a girlfriend too. Okay, and this Chloe girl offered the family some discount furniture, so that's nice. She is literally just a door-to-door saleswoman, and Cullen is trying to seduce her. I am so sorry, Chloe. You knocked on the wrong family's door. Cullen is such a hard man to read and understand his motives, but I do think that he's very upset with Denver for crossing that line. Yeah. He's like, for all the wrongs that Cullen did, he was loyal to Nicole. So Denver is going down a very slippery slope. I really think this has all been triggered by just all the events that have happened so far in this rotation. So yeah, Denver lost his mom, found out his dad really ain't all that. Oh my gosh. And then the cats, of course, are fighting as usual. I think Cullen came inside to kind of supervise. Oh, Pear is actually hissing at Mary Lena. I think pets are the best judge of characters, and the fact that Pear, who is the sweetest cat, immediately disliked Mary Lena says it all. I think Pear loves Sophie. Pear is just wow. I think Cullen came inside to ensure that nothing else happens between Denver and Mary Lena, at least while Cullen's home. Chloe was just trying to earn commission, and now she's like, what is going on in this family? I don't think Cullen will tell Sophie what he saw because Denver is his son. He is his favorite son after all. Maybe Pear is the problem here. Maybe Pear is picking fights with Banana that they can't handle. Anyway, I don't think Cullen's going to tell Sophie because Denver is his favorite son, or favorite child even.
But Cullen's really trying to pressure Denver to tell his wife the truth, and also trying to pressure Denver to end things with Mary Lena and focus on his family. It's crazy to me that Denver has not held his daughter yet, but he's kissed another woman. And Denver's just kind of like, whatever, I'm going to take a bubble bath and avoid both the woman in the house, ignore his child. Poor Elani crying. I know Sophie is playing the piano. So Sophie is also getting very burned out. As we've said, she's the only one really caring for this child. She's a very gifted musician. She's definitely channeling a lot of her anger and stress with her work and the baby, and just feeling totally ignored by her husband. I cannot imagine how she would react to finding out that Denver's having a whole affair. I said it in the first episode, Denver is one of my least favorite Sims. He just seems so full of himself. And he has all this kind of undeserved confidence. I guess he's pretty high up in his career, but he doesn't have the skills to match. He just got lucky with some chance cards. Just the fact that he won't pick up his daughter, the fact that he's having an affair. Oh my gosh, the cat's fighting in the background. Not even fighting. It's Pear ripping up the couch. What is going on with Pear? Pear is just having a rough time today. In the background of this house, you always hear cats fighting and screaming or flies buzzing. Oh my gosh. And then Denver's like, oh, my back hurts from painting all day. Totally ignoring the fact that Sophie was at work all day. And Mary Lena just watched that back rub. And she's like, oh, because Denver, of course, told Mary Lena that he and Sophie were having issues. They were probably going to get divorced, which is kind of dramatic. Sophie is definitely like, something is up here. She's watching the two of them sit next to each other. I guess Sophie's like, why are there two random women in the house while I was at work? Like, what's going on here? And then Sophie, like Cullen earlier, is just kind of standing here observing, seeing what's going to happen next. I like how Mary Lena and Denver are just not speaking. They're both too afraid to talk. They're not even making eye contact. So, like I said, Sophie is just kind of observing the situation, questioning why there are two random women in her house, and good on Banana. Let's go, Banana. Banana is chasing Mary Lena around this house. Like I said, I think animals are an excellent judge of characters, and both Banana and Pear really do not rock with Mary Lena. And Sophie is definitely observing, and she's definitely like, that's really interesting that Banana is singling out Denver's guest and chasing out the mysterious woman that Denver has brought to the house. Banana is like, get out. Wow, yeah, Mary Lena's like, this cat is crazy. And Sophie's just testing something. I think we saw before she gave Denver a back massage. She's definitely trying to be a little more flirty with him right now to kind of test the boundaries, see if Mary Lena will react. But I think Mary Lena is also kind of playing it safe. Oh my gosh, not the backyard terrace coming through their house. It kind of looks cute. I'm gonna fix that. I don't like that at all, actually. Anyway, so Mary Lena is also playing it smart. She knows not to get too jealous in front of Denver and Sophie. And again, Cullen is really side-eyeing his son.
and really just kind of sitting with his own life choices and wondering if he's the reason that Denver is cheating on his wife. Oh my gosh, not Pear sitting right there in the bed. So things have been pretty rocky between Sophie and Denver ever since their marriage and then the birth of course, Elani. Denver has not really been an involved parent at all, but I think Sophie's feeling a little jealousy after she came home from work and found Mary Lena just sitting in her house. She was like, "What's going on?" So Sophie is definitely pushing the envelope. I think she's trying to see if there's anything between Denver and Mary Lena. And obviously, she will know her answer if Mary Lena freaks out when Sophie and Denver start woohooing. So I think that's Sophie's plan here. Denver's playing a very sloppy game of checkers, but Sophie is playing chess. I think Sophie and Denver both kind of understand their marriage isn't over, but it's very rocky right now. But Denver's not really focused on why Sophie is suddenly so interested in being in the bedroom. Oh my gosh, not Pear bullying Chloe. Why are all their guests coming into the bedroom now when they're about to get intimate? Oh, and there's the answer. You heard that little broken heart sound. I think Mary Lena is about to come, yep, and slap Denver around like, "You told me your marriage with your wife is over." And Sophie's like, "I have my answer." Sophie now knows that Denver had an affair with her. Obviously, that affair is over now. Mary Lena is very upset with Denver. And I think Cullen's relieved because Cullen didn't have to tell Sophie about the affair. But yeah, Sophie is just so upset, and my heart really goes out for her. She has had a rough couple of days between going to the honeymoon by herself, giving birth alone, getting the demotion, and now she has, of course, the proof that her husband was having an affair. On top of being an absent father, he was cheating on her and neglecting their newborn child to have an affair. I like how all their guests are kind of gathered in the kitchen. Like, this house is really weird. Cullen invited Chloe inside to try to seduce her, but because he's so old, he just kind of fell asleep. And then Sophie's coworker is like, "Why are they woohooing? Why are we slapping each other?" There's always something going on in this house. And Sophie is just kind of being quiet and reflective because, like I said, she knew in her gut that something odd was going on between Denver and Mary Lena. But now, of course, she has the proof. And per usual, she is just eating a late night dinner alone because Cullen and Denver are always off doing their own thing. And Sophie is just kind of reflecting on her next few moves. I think she is making a plan to divorce Denver and get out of this house. And then here's Denver being oblivious as always. He's like, "Oh, we'll eat dinner together. We just like hooked up. All is good." He really thinks Sophie is not smart enough to question why Mary Lena stormed in and slapped him. Sophie's just very quiet. She's not being mean. She's just being quiet and withdrawn. She did not put her dishes away. Sophie is always the one person in this house to put their dishes away, but she is just exhausted. And I think Sophie's realizing she doesn't really know Denver at all. They kind of rushed into moving in together. They rushed into marriage. They rushed into having a baby together. Denver is cleaning up downstairs for once because he knows he's in the doghouse. And I think in his mind, he's like, "Okay, I'll clean up. I'll start playing with the baby." But it's kind of hard to like come back from an affair like this, especially when he's been so absent in other areas of their marriage. Like, it's a little bit too little too late. Maybe they could have come back from this if he hadn't had the affair, but I think the affair is really the final nail in the coffin on Sophie and Denver's relationship. And I think Sophie is just getting all her ducks in a row so she can officially divorce Denver, have a nice divorce settlement, be able to get a nice apartment somewhere in town, and kind of just get her daughter out of this mess of a household because Denver and Cullen are just very incompetent. And I think it's kind of shocking to Sophie how they were able to get this far in life. Again, I think Nicole really helped keep the household afloat, but to the detriment, of course, of her own life. And Sophie doesn't want to cut her own life short to help Denver reach platinum aspiration while Denver doesn't do anything. Why did it just look like Mary Lena kidnapped Apple? I don't think she did. But that was kind of funny that she was holding him and then she was like, I'm out. And of course, Pear loves Sophie, and he is just cuddled up right next to her after chasing Mary Lena around the house. Again, the animals are excellent judges of character, and the animals really love Sophie because Sophie is just so sweet and really the only one in this house making an effort to keep it clean, to keep everyone happy. But Sophie's like, I'm not gonna destroy my own life to keep these men happy. She's smart and she's gonna get out. Not that I think Nicole wasn't smart. I think Nicole just didn't realize how lacking Cullen was until, again, they had 4 children. And Nicole was like, I really don't want to raise 4 children completely alone, even though she was essentially raising them alone. And Denver is just like his father. We see a lot of parallels here. Both men are out in the backyard exploring their hobbies. Denver hasn't apologized to Sophie or even tried to open up a conversation about his very obvious affair. And of course, Denver now hates Marielena because she slapped him, but he also lied to her and said that he and Sophie were divorcing. And then when she saw that wasn't true, she was really hurt. So Denver can't recognize that he is at fault here. He is the issue. He was trying to string along 2 women, one of the women being his wife and mother of his child. Like, he just couldn't make it work. As I've said before, Denver thinks he is a lot more smooth than he actually is. Denver and Cullen still are not speaking. Denver is kind of making a mess of his own life. I mean, he's not entirely to blame. Obviously, his dad not showing up to his wedding really did a number on him. But Denver has just been in a heavy downward spiral ever since the passing of his mother. And I would argue, even his impromptu engagement to Sophie was part of that spiral. He wasn't thinking straight. He's a popularity sim. He never really cared about marriage, but all of a sudden he became determined to have a big wedding. And then when his dad couldn't show up for the wedding, it just completely shattered him. Again, not excusing any of his behavior, just kind of explaining it. So Denver didn't even come to bed last night. He stayed up all night outside in the backyard working, not helping with the baby. Sophie's like, whatever. She's trying to just focus on saving up as much money as she can right now. So like I said, she and Elani can move out and just kind of live their own life without having Denver dragging her down. Because at this point, he is just dragging her down. He's not respecting her. He's having affairs. He's not helping take care of the baby. And Sophie just doesn't want to end up in a similar situation as Nicole was and be several children into this marriage and still not having this man respect her. So then I think Cullen has spoken to Denver a little bit about how hard it is to run the business. And Denver has asked Cullen to come out and help him run the corner shop for a little bit. And Denver is still a little mad at his dad. And Cullen's also kind of mad at Denver. But I think they both agreed to do this before Denver had the affair the night before. Cullen was like, hey, will you come out, help run the shop for a little bit? And Denver's like, sure. But yeah, Cullen's not going with him because Cullen's very upset with Denver again for how he handled the Mary Lana situation. Denver is just mad at the world. He can't really take any responsibility for his actions, for how he's behaving. I love that he had to walk across the crosswalk to get inside. And Denver's like, okay, let me take a look at this store. Let me see what my dad's been up to, if there's any money in this. Because Denver does believe in his dad. And as I said before, Denver was always the favorite child, always had the rose-colored glasses on when it came to his dad's, I don't know, eccentric behavior, always made excuses for him until he really couldn't make excuses anymore when Cullen missed his wedding ceremony. So in a way, Denver is almost acting like a rebellious teenager right now. He is acting out, he's having affairs, he's not showing up. Like, he's not showing up for the people who matter, but he's really only hurting himself and Sophie. He's not really hurting his dad with this behavior. He's just self-sabotaging, ruining his own marriage. So now he's going to hire some employees because I think that's what he realized. He's like, okay, there's a lot of potential here, but we definitely need some employees to come in and help run the shop. And he really took his time vetting all these employees. So we have like 2 young women, 2 older men, and then like a middle-aged woman. And he's going to hire the 2 older men to help him for now. And already I think we're off to a better start than Cullen was the other day. We have 2 customers in here looking at the bland produce. I'm a little surprised that they're interested because it's not very good quality, but I guess there aren't a lot of fresh produce options for sale in Viper Falls quite yet, so he does have the market on that. And here are the 2 employees for the business. Denver, like I said, is a cutthroat businessman. He's kind of unassuming, so people don't take him seriously all the time, but he definitely knows how to run a business. He knows when it's time to work and not play. So I think it's good that Denver's out here kind of getting the store into shape. And Cullen, of course, recognized that his son is a good businessman, even if he's mad at him right now. I think it's kind of funny. You can tell Denver is just mad at everything with the affair ending, with Sophie being distant. Denver's really mad that he's married and has a baby. He feels like he's too young for that, even though, as we can see by his lifespan, he is, like, I would say, approaching middle age. He's approaching 40. He's not too young. But his dad had a similar mindset. His dad was terrified of having a baby at 80. I think both these men overestimate their looks, their influence, their charm. But at the same time, I guess they are pretty charming if both men convinced a woman to just, I don't know, raise all their children while they do whatever they want. And then we immediately assigned one of these men to run the register, and one of them is going to go around the store and sell some items if they're done swooning over these young women. And like I said, Denver's just kind of supervising. He looked at the store, he realized what his dad needed to fix. And there's actually his younger brother, Dayton, came into the store, I guess, to come and check it out, support the family business. But again, Denver is too wrapped up in his own emotions and drama to really even like acknowledge his brother, to talk to his brother. And I think Dayton understands better than Denver realizes how it feels to be disappointed by their father. Denver kind of got the like better end of the stick, I would say, in their upbringing, because Denver was the firstborn, the golden child. But the rest of his siblings spent their whole lives being disappointed by their dad. And Denver really knows that money talks, so he went ahead and gave, I think, both the men in the store a little bit of a bonus just to ensure they keep working hard. And he also decided to hire a young woman just to have some diversity in the Sims. So it's not all men running this store. He's like, we do need some women in here to help out. Not this man dancing with the woman. This man is a menace over here, Mark. He's just like walking around, flirting with the woman, dancing with them. He needs to like chill out. Like, we need to get over there and tell Mark to stop. And we just gave Mark a raise too. He got a raise and just started like doing this dance in the corner. But the store is definitely booming. I think business is going really well. Cullen bought a good little starter location. His pottery is actually selling really well. Denver knew it would. Denver knows his dad's really good at pottery. Cullen may be a terrible father, but man, is he good at making ceramics. We went ahead and sent Mark home for the day because he was just being strange and off-putting. At least Herbert, the other guy, is just dancing alone and not like dancing with the customers. Now Denver is trying his hand at running the cash register. He's like, it can't be that hard. His dad had complained to him about how hard it was to use the cash register, and Denver's like, it can't be that hard. But I think he's learning that there are levels to this, and Denver is still kind of at the bottom of the business level. He's still trying to navigate things. And I think it's also humbling for Denver to have something that he's not good at. Like I said, he's pretty good at business. He's always gotten what he's wanted. So it's kind of humbling for him for the first time in his life. He's not getting what he wants. He's having a bad relationship with his dad. His marriage is on the rocks. His affair is over. And he's finding out, like his dad did, that running a business is a lot easier said than done. But the business does have their first star now. So good job, Denver. So Denver is still struggling at the cash register. Like I said before, he's just kind of mad at the world right now. Not really understanding that a lot of the mess he's in right now is because of his own actions, his own reactions. I think Denver is kind of tired of running the business. He agrees with his dad that it is a lot of work. So he's starting to wrap things up for the day. I think he's going to check out these last few customers and then just call it a day. We're going to go ahead and buy some business perks. I'm actually kind of excited to play around more with the business perks. I've only, I think, unlocked a handful of them before, so I'm very excited. I have very big plans for this business. Let's see. And then we're going to go ahead and give her a raise. Oops. And then we are going to send her home for the day as well. I guess first Denver is just kind of observing her sell to this customer. And he's like, okay, nice. Good job. We'll give her a nice big raise. The Sims do work better when they get raises. Not always, but most times. Sometimes they take advantage of the raise. And then we are going to go ahead and close the business for the day. I don't think that Sophie will be too pleased to learn that while she was at work all day, he was running the store and Cullen was left in charge of baby Elani. Now, of course, the babysitter is home too, so Cullen's not the sole adult there, but I really think Sophie has told Denver many times that she does not want his dad watching the baby just because of his track record
of being kind of forgetful and impulsive and not responsible.
And again, it's kind of interesting to see Denver struggle at something for once, whereas in every other aspect of his life, he's kind of just gotten what he wanted. Things have just worked out for him. But as we have said, he is definitely on a downward spiral following the passing of his mother, Nicole. And he is just making one bad decision after another. And for the first time in his life, he's kind of not getting what he wants. So pretty much everybody in Denver's household is mad at each other for various reasons. Cullen and Sophie are beefing. Denver and Cullen are beefing. Denver and Sophie are beefing. Like, everyone is just having issues with each other. And now Denver is home from work. Oh, and it looks like Mary Lena is lurking in the background. I have a feeling she's about to steal a newspaper. Or maybe she finally brought the kitten back. We'll just go with that narrative that she had kidnapped the kitten before, but now she's bringing the kitten back. And she's going to steal the newspaper while she's here too. And I love how she ran the wrong direction and was going to run into the backyard. Okay, anyway, Denver doesn't even have the energy to unpack that. He's just like, okay, that's whatever. He just found out he's really bad at running a business. Or not even bad. He's just not naturally good at it. Not that he's naturally good at anything, but as I've said before, he can always kind of fail upwards, find like a little gap to slip through, and he hasn't been able to find it yet. So it's kind of upsetting to him that he actually has to work towards a goal now. He's never had to work towards anything. I don't know how Apple got outside. Oh yeah, Marilena brought him back. That's our narrative. Marilena did kidnap Apple for a little bit, and Denver had to be like, please bring back the kitten. It's upsetting my dad. And she was like, fine, but I'm going to steal your newspaper when I come back. And Denver was like, what? Okay. So Denver is just struggling with the idea that he doesn't really want to be a married man with a child. And yet here he is. And he wanted to keep having his little affair side piece, but then of course that imploded right in his face when Sophie got wise to the fact that he was having an affair and decided to expose him. And so he's pretty mad at everything, and he just had that nice big wedding, so he really doesn't want to have a divorce right now either, because a lot of people came to that wedding and it like just happened. So he'd be really embarrassed to then get divorced right after. And he doesn't even have like another woman lined up yet.
To Denver, the only thing worse than being in an unhappy marriage is being single.
If he had another woman lined up, like, I think he would divorce Sophie, but the fact that Mary Elena is kind of done with him right now too because he was lying to her, he's just upset at everything. And again, he can't really understand these are all consequences of his own actions. And then his dad, of course, is upset with him for having the affair. Sophie is upset with him for being so checked out. I don't know why all these cats are just crowding around him, and it is breaking my heart to hear baby Elani cry, but it looks like the butler went ahead, per usual, and took care of her. So as I said before, this is just a household full of Sims who are mad at each other, and none of them are very good at talking things out other than Sophie, but she's at work. And even when Sophie does try to open up conversations about behaviors with each other, when Sophie does try to start those conversations, neither Denver nor Cullen really want to have them, so they're kind of pointless. Like, Sophie will try to be like, hey, it's upsetting that your dad missed our wedding. It's upsetting that you, Denver, missed our honeymoon. It's upsetting that Cullen spent all this money on a poorly run business. It's upsetting that Denver won't engage with their daughter. But the second she brings up these conversations, the men in the house just don't want to have them because they were never raised that way. Cullen especially has coasted through his entire life avoiding hard conversations and avoiding kind of hard work in general. Even in his elderly years, he's still adopting a kitten when there's a newborn baby in the house. He's not really holding his grandchild. He's missing his son's wedding. He's just never been held accountable for his actions, similar to Denver. So it kind of creates this mess. Or this chaotic environment where the men just don't seem to understand that their actions have consequences. Sophie is now home from work. She really wants to get a promotion after she got demoted a few days ago, and it looks like that promotion has happened. She's back to being a junior officer. So Sophie's feeling pretty good, and she's also excited with this little simoleon bonus. She is putting aside some money because she is definitely planning on getting out of this house as soon as she has a decent amount of savings saved up. She wants to provide a good life for Elani when they're living on their own. Per usual, Sophie is coming home and seeing the cat bowls are kind of empty. The house is kind of a mess as always. Cullen's in the backyard working on his current art project. And I think Sophie is still trying to process the fact that Denver was clearly having an affair. The way Mary Elena slapped him after Sophie and Denver woohooed kind of confirmed that for her. But of course, Denver isn't going to acknowledge anything. And I think Sophie was maybe hoping that Denver would be waiting at home to have a conversation with her about it, to apologize. But of course, there's no accountability for their actions in this house. And there's a random wolf in the backyard. Okay, moving on. I mean, in a way, I understand Denver because Cullen, again, is his dad, and Cullen is the definition of a man-child. But at the same time, I feel like Denver needs to accept responsibility in his own life and change his behaviors instead of just chalking it up to the way he was raised. And now, of course, Sophie has to play along when Denver wants to woohoo because Sophie doesn't want him to know that she's divorcing. And this is how Denver kind of gets his confidence. His confidence definitely got knocked down a few pegs working at the business this morning. So, of course, the second Sophie gets home, he's like, let's woohoo because they woohooed the day before. In Denver's mind, he and Sophie are going strong even though she's not the woman he wants to be married to. Mostly because I think she holds him responsible for his actions, and he definitely does not want to be responsible for his own child, let alone his own actions.
It's interesting that they're both kind of playing along to the idea that they're happy in this marriage because neither wants to be the one to divorce for different reasons. Denver is avoiding a divorce because he thinks it'll look bad, and Sophie is just trying to stack up as much money as she can before she runs. So she definitely has to play along for now. I don't know why Cullen is always using Denver and Sophie's bathtub. It's fine. So anyway, Sophie is just playing the part of a faithful, loyal wife for now, but she is definitely plotting her escape. And as soon as they are done woohooing, she took a bath because she's kind of grossed out by Denver at this point. She's like, she can't believe that she even accepted his engagement, that they got married, because the past few days have really opened her eyes to the type of man that Denver is. And Denver's in a great mood after that. He's feeling inspired. He's writing a beautiful love song, which I guess is like the first nice gesture he's done for Sophie in quite some time. Again, he abandoned her while she was pregnant on their honeymoon. He won't confront his dad for his frivolous spending, and he has not even picked up his newborn daughter yet. But I guess at least he's writing a love song for Sophie. Oh, and he cheated on her. So the whole house is at odds right now, but Denver still believes that he and Sophie are going strong. And I guess Denver's kind of like accepting that he is a married family man now.
Of course, to get to this point,
he had to mess up very badly a handful of times. And of course, the mistakes he made kind of damaged his marriage beyond repair. But Denver's too full of himself to realize that. Again, in Denver's mind, he doesn't even realize that it was very obvious about the affair coming to light the other day. And Sophie is still trying to play the part of the supportive wife. She's like, wow, nice song. And then she got bored and walked away. And as usual, Denver doesn't really notice because he is in his own world. He's just always thinking about himself. I think Sophie is going to look up some real estate in the area. She likes to look up the properties and just see kind of what's for sale. Everything's pretty expensive, but I think Sophie is pretty confident that she can earn enough money. She makes a decent amount at her military job. I guess Cullen's not mad at Sophie, but he kind of is. Like, he feels bad that she got cheated on. Not Cullen applauding his own portrait. And that's his mom, Brittany, next to him. Here's Denver behaving like a man-child, eating out of the fridge as Sophie's making dinner. Also, Denver has picked up this kitten more than he has picked up his actual daughter, which Sophie has noticed, of course. And I think Sophie's like, I'm done. Denver, you grab dinner. I'm gonna go change Elani right now because no one else in the family is. And Denver's like, what? Okay, I guess I can do it. Like, Sophie is trying to force Denver to be more responsible if he won't do it on his own. And of course, Sophie is busy upstairs tending to the baby while Cullen and Denver eat dinner without her. They didn't even wait for her to eat dinner. These two men are trying to mend their relationship. I think Cullen is very egotistical and he sees a lot of himself in Denver. So even though he's very upset with Denver for having the affair, he's like, at least the affair is over now. Denver stopped by the business this afternoon and helped run it. He is my son after all.
And again, just as Denver makes excuses for his dad's poor behavior, I think that goes both ways. And his dad definitely makes a lot of excuses for Denver, too. Just two man children telling each other exactly. Now Sophie finally gets a chance to eat after she got the baby to bed. She is just so over this whole household. My heart really goes out to her because she, like Nicole, is clearly doing all the behind the scenes work, all the thankless, invisible work. And Denver and Cullen just do not realize that. You would think after Nicole passed, Sophie's what? Okay. And it appears that Sophie is now pregnant with her second child with Denver. So that's definitely going to put a bit of a wrench in her move out plans. And then while Sophie was eating dinner, Denver had a little birthday party for Elani and aged her up, and Sophie found out she was pregnant shortly after. So I think that was Denver's first time hanging out with Elani, was to have her first birthday party while Sophie was in the other room. I don't think Denver's doing this behavior intentionally, but it definitely feels that way. So Sophie is pregnant with her and Denver's second child, and we're gonna go ahead and have Cullen call a nanny for the night. Again, I think it is insane how there are 3 adults in this house, but when Sophie is asleep, the other men in the house just don't take care of the baby. So I bought some new toys for Elani now that she is a toddler. And okay, this is a sweet moment. Like I said, the bar is on the floor, but it is kind of crazy to me how Cullen is a more active father figure than Denver is. And like I said, Cullen obviously isn't perfect. He kind of put all the parenting duties onto Nicole, but he is kind of trying. I think Cullen is just kind of incompetent, whereas Denver's almost malicious. You know what I mean? Like, Denver's having an affair, Denver's not talking to his child at all. Denver only interacts with his wife when he wants woohoo. Otherwise, they just don't talk. Like, Denver's kind of evil in my eyes, and I'm really not rocking with him, especially after this episode. But as I've said before, playing the quote-unquote bad Sims, evil Sims, it is a lot of fun because there's always a lot of drama that ensues, and playing perfect Sims all the time, there's just no storyline there, and I love a good storyline. So even though Denver is one of my least favorite Sims, I really like Sophie. I think Elani is adorable. You can hear the cats fighting in the background, like always. So yeah, Sophie and Elani are some of my favorite Sims, and I think it's almost like entertaining. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I was not expecting that. Okay. So, oh my gosh. So, Banana and Pear are fighting. And it looks like Banana's getting messed up. I'm like, let's go, Pear. You take on Banana. Like, all I see is Banana getting thrown in the air. Like, oh my gosh. Banana won somehow still. Okay. It's because Banana has all that muscle on her. She has an unfair advantage. Oh no! Is Pear running away? Oh my gosh. Pear just ran away. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, Pear just ran away. Mary Lena is back, I guess, to steal the newspaper, kidnap the other cat. I don't know. We're gonna go ahead and report Pear missing. I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember when I was younger and playing The Sims 2, I read somewhere that if your pet has a collar on them, they're more likely to return. And if they don't have a collar, it's like less likely. Can someone verify that for me? Or is that just like a Sims 2 rumor? I always forget to give my pets collars, but I'm trying to get better at it. Can we like scold Banana? No, we're just gonna pet her. Banana is evil. Banana is the perfect pet for Denver because they're both evil. Banana's just so mean. I'm just like staring at her and I'm just like, wow, what a bully. Okay. That was a lot. That was exciting. Anyway, like I was saying, Sophie and Elani are some of my favorites. I think Sophie is so gorgeous and she puts up with a lot with Denver. And I really applaud her for wanting to stack her money before she gets out. I feel bad that she is pregnant again, so she's going to have to wait just a little bit longer, maybe after the birth of their second child, she can leave. But right now, she just doesn't have enough money stacked up. She wants to get a few more promotions at work, like I said, just to ensure that she and Elani can live a good life without Denver, because right now Denver and his father, unfortunately, do bring in quite a bit of money. And I think the business that they're running is slowly going to turn a profit. It's just going to take some time. And it's not the quick get rich quick scheme that they had in mind. Like, I think both Denver and his father were like, okay, we'll just buy this business and sell all the pottery for really expensive and just make a lot of money. But as we've seen, that's easier said than done. Both Denver and Cullen kind of struggled with manning the cash register. They both got pretty tired talking to customers, even though they're both pretty charismatic. I feel like that's the nanny playing the piano in the background. I don't think... Oh, it's Cullen! Oh my gosh, what? Oh, I guess all his pottery skills led him to be pretty creative. I do like how in The Sims 3, I'll give credit where credit is due, how there's different, like, skills for each object. Like, painting is one skill, guitar is a different skill, piano is a different skill, whereas in The Sims 2, it all just kind of falls under the creative category. So I do think it's kind of funny when I have a Sim who's, like, never touched a piano, but they're really good at painting, and then all of a sudden they're just doing this on the piano, like in Cullen's case. I don't think the family had any musical instruments when he was raising the children. He was strictly a pottery and painting man. But it's fine. He's just a jack of all trades, master of none. So now it is midsummer. I'm sure it is pretty hot outside. And Sophie and Denver are both waking up pretty early. I think Sophie's pregnancy, she has trouble sleeping during her pregnancy. And Denver needs to start getting ready for work because he is somehow a state assembly person. Poor little Elani. We can hear her crying in the background. I think I've said before, I do have the mod where the toddlers can escape their cribs all the time, and it's super helpful so the kids just aren't screaming all the time. Now that Elani is a toddler, all of a sudden Denver's trying to be a hands-on dad. I guess he had no interest in her when she was like a baby. She clearly needs her diaper change. I don't know why he's like trying to potty train her right now. Like, he doesn't really know what he's doing. I mean, I guess he's trying, but he's not really reading the baby's needs right at like all. She had to ask him for a diaper change. She cannot even talk yet. And she had to try to communicate with him like, hey, I'm stinky. And he's like, what? Okay. He's like, the nanny will take care of that. Yeah, Denver is kind of useless. Again, he was cheating on his wife, abandoned his pregnant wife on their honeymoon, did not interact with their daughter at all the first like year of her life. And I guess now that she's older, he's realizing that Elani
is a person or a sim, and she's going to be an adult one day, and he just doesn't want his daughter to kind of have the same rocky relationship that he has with his father. And like I've said before, all of Denver's siblings had been telling him for years, or just talking amongst themselves, that their parents were kind of absent and not the best, and Denver always defended them, especially his dad. But of course, in recent days, he's just discovered that's not the case, that his dad is kind of a deadbeat parent. We're gonna go ahead and have Sophie eat some leftover waffles for breakfast. Per usual, she is eating alone because I think Cullen sleeps in really late and Denver's just kind of doing whatever upstairs, playing the piano. I don't know what his deal is. And as we can see, Sophie is really afraid of passing out, throwing up, having an accident, and she really just wants to get back to work and start stacking that money so she and Elani can get out of this house. And speaking of stacking money, Denver is heading off to another day at work in his little 3-piece suit, off to go make some more laws for Viper Falls. I like how, like, in all the other houses, there's some, like, alien stuff going on, robot stuff going on, and Denver just seems totally, like, oblivious to all of that. Like, he's like, oh, I didn't know this was happening.
So Cullen is just teaching Elani how to talk, which is an actually really sweet moment, and I'm proud of him. Again, the bar is on the floor, but at least it seems like Cullen has kind of learned from not being present during his own children's childhoods, that now he's trying to kind of make up for past mistakes by teaching Elani how to talk. It would be nice if Denver could help out with skills too, but I guess he is at work right now.
And I think Sophie is just so exhausted from her pregnancy and just trying to keep afloat, especially while dealing with Denver's behavior. So I think Cullen has just kind of watched his son not be the best dad, and Cullen's realizing that Denver's behavior is also sort of an effect of how Cullen raised him, or didn't really help raise him, I would say. So Cullen's trying to set a better example, not only for himself, but for his son now too. I mean, I think it might be a little too late because Denver is like in his 30s and still kind of behaving like a teenage boy. But I really think it upset Cullen to see Denver having the affair. Like, Cullen was like, that's way too far. Cullen might have been an absent dad, picking his art over his children again and again. But like I said, Cullen never had an affair. Cullen was always 100% loyal to Nicole. And I think that really is like the least he could do with all the turmoil he put her through. But because this family doesn't talk about anything, Cullen still hasn't really confronted Denver about the affair. And obviously, Sophie knows about the affair. Marilena slapped Denver in front of her. So it all kind of came to light. But that whole situation just really upset Cullen way more than he thought it would. And this is the man, of course, who missed his own son's wedding to take a bath. Watching Denver cheat on Sophie really changed how Cullen viewed his son. And I guess more importantly, it really changed how Cullen viewed himself too. He was like, what type of child did I raise? While Cullen's priorities aren't perfect, I guess at least he does have a strong moral compass, and he realizes when something is wrong. And speaking of taking a bath, I think Sophie is going to take a bubble bath and then head back to bed because pregnancy is truly exhausting for her. And I love that Cullen and Elani are having a good relationship. I'm glad that at least one of the men in the house has stepped up to help out. And I didn't even have to call in the nanny this morning. Granted, the butler is here. He can always help out. Denver is jamming some music. I feel like he would give the headphones, and he lost some music and dance enthusiasm. Okay. We don't care. Like I said, I only really care about the juicy chance cards. That was not very juicy. That was kind of boring. Anyway, like I said, the butler's here, but he's not really helping with the childcare. And I think this is the first time, like, ever that Sophie has felt comfortable leaving her daughter in care of her father-in-law. She's seeing that Cullen's trying. It's interesting how Denver is so angry at his dad for the whole wedding fiasco and was like acting out and stuff because of that. But Sophie's kind of like forgiven Cullen because, again, Denver had an affair. Denver's doing arguably much worse behavior, whereas Cullen is just kind of like trying to do the right thing.
Cullen is incompetent, not evil.
Of course, he's still going to work on his skills. He loves to work on his art stuff. And he is really intent on making some snapdragon bouquets.
At least he did spend the morning teaching his granddaughter how to talk.
And now the butler is feeding Elani. I don't think Cullen, like Denver, has really learned to speak toddler quite yet. He can't understand when she's hungry or tired. So he just kind of sat and taught her some skills, but her needs are getting kind of red. But good thing the butler is here to put her in bed. Now, Sophie is playing the piano. I think all three members of the house have played on the piano the past like 12 hours or so. And they've all played sort of different tunes similar to what they're going through. I always like to envision Sophie's piano melodies are a little sad, a little melancholic, but still very beautiful. So Sophie is playing the piano. Cullen is outside working on making a snapdragon bouquet. I think, again, he's starting to think that if he can make the snapdragon bouquet and put that in the store, then he and Denver can work longer, make more sales. Of course, it all comes down to the simoleons. But Cullen is really excited that he is finally selling his pottery after decades of working on his art. And he's like so close to being successful with it. He knows he is. He just has to keep on trying. I love how I have the chocolate maker in the back. I need to build like a room or something to put all these special ones. Okay, and then Apple just grew into a cat. Apple looks like a smaller version of Banana. Again, Banana is just so big and mean. And now I am a little afraid that Apple and Banana are gonna be fighting like Banana and Pear did, because I think Pear is the problem in this. I mean, not Pear. I think Banana is the problem in this house. Banana's just so mean. I've never had such a mean cat before. Like, I've had other Sims with like 2 cats and they do not fight like this. Banana really is the issue. So Apple was being saved from like Banana's wrath while she was a kitten, but now that Apple is older, all bets are off. We're gonna have to like lock Banana in a room, or maybe we'll get rid of her. I don't know. We need to take care of Banana, but one thing at a time. Right now, Sophie is just pregnant. She is about to have her second child in a few sim days. I think Denver should be getting home from work in just a little bit. Hopefully, he'll be a more hands-on father again this evening, help teach Elani some skills. Again, hopefully Cullen has been setting a good example for him, kind of being like, hey, you should be interacting with your child. I also, like I said, think now that Elani is older and Denver realizes, oh wait, she's going to grow up one day,
and she's gonna have opinions on me like I have opinions on my parents, and that kind of scares him. I don't know why that didn't cross his mind before. I guess because he was just spiraling after the wedding and only thinking of himself per usual. But hopefully Denver shapes up soon and starts thinking about his family. Maybe Denver can mend his relationship with Sophie. Maybe she won't leave, but I think first he has to like apologize and really work on being better. So I guess we will see if Denver will change or if he is too stuck in his ways or if it's like too little too late and Sophie's just ready to go. I don't think Cullen or Denver really suspect yet that Sophie is planning to leave because that just doesn't cross their mind. Like, Nicole never left. And even with all the affair stuff, Denver's like, it's fine. Oh my gosh, not Denver just putting the trash down outside. Please pick that up. Okay, thank you. Okay, y'all. So I think we are going to go ahead and start winding this episode down. This was a Denver's story. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about Denver and his family. I can't wait until we get into his siblings because I think they're more interesting than him and also a little smarter than him, just in the sense that they figured out pretty quickly that their dad was kind of a deadbeat. And it took Denver, I don't know, an extra like 20 or so years to come to that same conclusion. But I guess he's learned now, and like I said, I guess Cullen's trying to be better now, and that's all you can be, is just learn from your mistakes and be better. So this episode is coming to a close. Thank you all so much for watching. Next up, we are going to look at Dawn and Dawson, who are Dylan's older siblings, Charlie's oldest children, and that'll be a really fun episode. Thank you all so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.